2021 might have been one of those years where everyone stayed home and watched films, but despite that, a few quality movies still managed to slip through the net. I'm Will for What Culture, and here are 10 surprisingly awesome 2021 movies you probably missed. 10. Army of Thieves. Though Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead received broadly positive reviews from critics, the general audience response was decidedly more mixed, because, let's be honest, it's a big old mess of a movie. While fitfully entertaining, it's also a wildly overindulgent car crash of questionable storytelling and irritating characters, exacerbated by a brutal 148-minute runtime. When it was revealed that a spin-off film had been shot, many didn't even bother giving it a second look, on the basis that it would simply be more of the same. But that's not really being fair to Army of Thieves, which shifts away from the undead shenanigans of Snyder's film towards a hilariously self-aware heist yarn centered around Army of the Dead's fan-favorite character, Ludwig. It's certainly a tad too long, but between its likable cast, witty dialogue, and madcap action, this is infinitely more charming and consistent than the film that spawned it. 9. Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. The anemic marketing for Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar did a total disservice to it, failing to capitalize upon its madcap comedy stylings or the chemistry of its leads. The fact that Lionsgate cancelled its theatrical release early last year and sent it direct to PVOD instead suggested to many that they were simply dumping a dud movie they had no faith in. But alas, for anyone who dared to take the plunge, one of the year's most hilariously deranged, woefully stupid slices of cinema awaited. Perhaps closest in tone to an Austin Powers movie, this surreal buddy comedy doubles as a delirious spoof of spy films, as Midwestern pals Barb and Star stumble upon a villainous plot to destroy the titular resort where they're vacationing. 8. Werewolves Within. It's always smart to keep your expectations low where video game movies are concerned, and when Ubisoft confirmed they were producing an adaptation of their hit VR game Werewolves Within, it barely seemed to register at all with gamers or moviegoers. Without a named director or notable cast, Werewolves Within looked like a low-effort attempt to milk a moderately successful but still niche video game, and so many simply slept on it. But it was ultimately one of the most pleasant surprises of the year, even receiving enough acclaim to be the best reviewed video game movie of all time. While it's fair to say that Werewolves Within only has so much in common with its thinly premised source material, it absolutely nails the paranoia-soaked vibe. The central cast give terrific performances as they desperately try to figure out the identity of the werewolf savaging the snow-topped town of Beaverfield, while director Josh Rubin milks his enclosed setting for every atmospheric drop. 7. VHS 94. Nobody could have blamed you for having written off the found footage anthology franchise VHS after 2014's third film VHS Viral, which made it clear the series had run out of compelling ideas. And so when a VHS reboot for horror streaming service Shudder was unveiled last year, it was tough to get particularly excited, given the spotty track record of hit franchises receiving reboots for streaming. But VHS 94 was ultimately a massively pleasant surprise, not merely a return to form for the series, but the best VHS film yet, making the most of its grimy 90s aesthetic and diverse array of balmy stories. The filmmakers clearly made the most of their low budget, turning in an imaginative, unsettling, and uncommonly consistent horror anthology. Don't miss this one. 6. Ron's Gone Wrong. Oh, Ron's Gone Wrong. You deserved so much better. This animated sci-fi comedy was among the last batch of movies Disney inherited from Fox during their acquisition of the company, and like most other films under that umbrella, Disney basically sent it out to die with only the most minimal marketing push, causing it to bomb at the box office. It's a shame, because it gave the impression Disney knew they had a no-good dud on their hands, something the admittedly lackluster trailers only seemed to back up. But then Ron's Gone Wrong hit cinemas to enthusiastically positive reviews from most critics, and an A cinema score, because despite what Disney may have led you to believe, this is a sweet, charming, hilarious, and beautifully animated buddy comedy. Between its commentary on technology's role in modern society and Zach Galifianakis' terrific central vocal performance, this really didn't deserve to be dumped in cinemas without a fighting chance, simply because Disney didn't create it and therefore didn't want to put any effort into selling it. 5. Till Death. Nobody could blame you for taking one look at the cover art for Megan Fox's new VOD thriller Till Death and quickly quickly scrolling past it. Nothing in its marketing suggests it's anything more than your typical, generic, lazy genre film for a quick, easy buck. And while no one's going to call Till Death a masterpiece, it is a testament to how entertaining, well-executed, no-nonsense genre fare can be. Fox stars as a woman who wakes up handcuffed to her dead husband and must fend off a fleet of hired killers coming her way. In the wrong hands, this could have easily been unintentionally hilarious, but between Fox's impressively gutsy physical performance and rock-solid direction from debuting filmmaker S.K. Dale, this is tense, gripping, and at 88 minutes, not a moment too long. 4. Vacation Friends. One look at the posters for Vacation Friends made it look like a direct-to-streaming remake of the terrible 2009 rom-com Couples Retreat, and its trailers largely featured jokes aiming towards the lowest common denominator. That's not to say Vacation Friends is a whip-smart comedy, but it is a funny one, and one that takes advantage of its central quartet's comedic talents, especially those of John Cena and Lil Rel Howery. Making the most of its permissive R rating while delivering just enough sweetness to satisfy, this is a big step above the generic, pandering studio comedy it seemingly announced itself as in its marketing. A sequel, Honeymoon Friends, is currently in development, so in fairness, it must have pulled in decent enough viewing figures on Hulu and Disney+. 3. Pig. Pig is another film that prospective audiences just didn't take seriously in the lead up to its release. Viewers couldn't seem to make sense of whether or not this Nicolas Cage starring film about a former chef seeking to retrieve his kidnapped truffle pig was a serious piece of cinema or a joke. Some assumed it was basically John Wick but with a pig, and that Cage would spend the bulk of the movie freaking out while cutting his way through a seemingly endless fleet of gangsters. But Pig is actually something completely different, a dense meditation on existence, joy, grief, and food that sees Cage give a performance of shocking depth and sincerity. Between Pig's marketing and the fact it was directed by first-time filmmaker Michael Sarnowski, many evidently weren't willing to roll the dice, but those who did were rewarded with one of the most deftly crafted and thoughtful films of the past year. 2. Cop Shop. Cop Shop wasn't so much a movie people missed because it looked bad, but because it was initially a theatrical exclusive release that didn't really feel like it needed to be one. Everything in the movie's marketing screamed, "This should be on streaming!" Namely, its confined setting with just a few actors, but by the time it actually hit streaming a short while later, people had largely forgotten about it. It's a shame, as Joe Carnahan's savage action thriller is exactly the sort of movie that should be getting championed and finding an audience on streaming services. An efficient, no-frills genre offering that's witty, funny, brutal, and terrifically acted. 1. The Amusement Park. Even ardent horror fans might have spaced on the fact that George A. Romero posthumously released one final film this last year. The Amusement Park was shot in 1975 and originally commissioned as an educational film about elder abuse and ageism, but ended up shelved due to its edgier than expected content and after sporadic festival screenings was believed to have been lost. But in 2017, a 16mm print was rediscovered and subsequently remastered in 4K before premiering on Shudder last summer. Though absolutely a specialist engagement for Romero fans above all others, this is still a fantastically confronting and unexpected piece of work, filtering prejudice against the elderly through the filmmaker's uniquely nightmarish lens. Even the film's totally unvarnished aesthetic only adds to its potency, while Lincoln Marzel's central performance as a brutalized elderly man is nothing short of mesmerizing. And if you're somehow still on the fence, it's only 55 minutes long. And there you have it, folks, 10 surprisingly awesome 2021 movies you probably missed. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at YouSlyDogU. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.